There are famous diamonds, and then there is the Kohinoor. At 105 carats, it is not the largest or the rarest stone on Earth, but no other gem has generated more wars, betrayals, and deaths. Across 800 years of recorded history, this diamond was never purchased. It was never voluntarily given as a gift. Every single time it changed hands, it was taken by force. Today, it sits behind bulletproof glass in the Tower of London, set into the crown of the late Queen Mother, guarded by the royal household. But its presence in that display case remains the subject of intense, ongoing diplomatic friction. India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran all actively demand its return. To understand why a single gemstone has the power to provoke international incidents a century and a half after it left the subcontinent, we have to trace its trail of ruin all the way back to the beginning. The earliest credible records place the Great Diamond in the Deccan Plateau of medieval India. It belonged to the Kakatiya dynasty, a sophisticated Hindu empire ruling from the city of Warangal. The Kakatiyas didn't treat the stone as a piece of royal jewelry or financial collateral. To them, it was a devotional offering. They placed it as the literal eye of a statue of the goddess Bhadrakali. In medieval India, a stone with such unnatural internal luminosity was believed to hold a divine presence within it. In its original home, the diamond was a stationary object of pure reverence. That quiet sanctity wouldn't last. The greed of rival empires was about to consume it. In 1310, the armies of the Delhi Sultanate swept south and sacked Warangal. The Kakatiya dynasty collapsed, the diamond was ripped from its temple, and a relentless cycle of violent transfer began. The stone eventually fell to the Mughal Empire, where it lost its religious context completely. Emperor Shah Jahan embedded it into his legendary peacock throne, using it as the ultimate display of unimaginable imperial wealth. Then came 1739. Nader Shah, a ferocious Persian military commander, invaded a weakened Delhi. His troops massacred tens of thousands of civilians in a single day and stripped the capital of everything valuable, including the dismantled peacock throne. The defeated Mughal emperor tried to save the Great Diamond by hiding it in the folds of his turban, but Nader Shah caught wind of the secret. He proposed a ceremonial exchange of headwear, a traditional gesture of peace that the captive emperor couldn't refuse. Retreating to his tent, Nader Shah unwound the cloth. As the brilliant stone tumbled into his hands, he held it to the light and gasped two words that gave the diamond its permanent name: Kohinoor, Mountain of Light. Nader Shah's assassination soon after triggered a century of Persian and Afghan horror. The diamond passed through a chain of rulers via torture, imprisonment, and murder. One Afghan king even had boiling oil poured on his feet rather than reveal its location. The legend of the Kohinoor's curse was born from a very real, unbroken pattern of human brutality. The stone found its way back to India under Ranjit Singh, the founder of the powerful Sikh Empire. He wore it obsessively, but within a decade of his death in 1839, his kingdom fractured. This internal chaos was exactly what the British East India Company was waiting for. After a series of brutal military campaigns, they annexed the Punjab. But they didn't just use cannons, they conquered with weaponized paperwork. The decisive instrument was the 1849 Treaty of Lahore. Article 3 of that document explicitly demanded that the gem called the Kohinoor be surrendered directly to the Queen of England. The person forced to sign this treaty was Dalip Singh, the last Maharaja of the Punjab. He was 10 years old, surrounded by the occupying army that had just destroyed his kingdom. To this day, the official narrative often frames this transfer as a legal, voluntary gift. But extracting a treaty from a terrified child under military occupation is simply a heist dressed up as law. The British public saw their new prize at the 1851 Great Exhibition, but were largely underwhelmed. The diamond had an ancient Indian cut, designed for mass rather than sparkle. Disappointed by the lack of fire, Prince Albert decided the traditional shape was inadequate. In 1852, Dutch gem cutters completely overhauled the stone, grinding it down to maximize light dispersion for European tastes. The physical cost was staggering.
Nearly half its mass was ground into dust, reducing the legendary 186-carat giant to a 105-carat European brilliant. Queen Victoria proudly wore this newly diminished jewel to her royal celebrations, presiding over a global empire built on the subjugation of the very land the diamond was extracted from. Grinding the Kohinoor into a new shape to satisfy European tastes was an act of profound cultural vandalism.
In 38 days, the British erased 8 centuries of Indian aesthetic history, permanently destroying the craftsmanship of the empires they had conquered. Today, the Kohinoor functions as a highly visible proxy for a much larger, invisible loss. It stands in for the tens of trillions of dollars in material wealth, systematically drained from the Indian subcontinent during British rule. When leaders like Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru began formally demanding the diamond back after independence, they were targeting the principle of the theft. They demanded a clear, unqualified acknowledgement that the colonial taking was wrong. However, the British government has consistently refused. Their prevailing argument is that repatriating the Kohinoor would open the floodgates, eventually emptying Western museums of their vast collections of looted global heritage. So, the Mountain of Light waits. An object that once sat in the eye of a goddess and traveled through 7 empires now sits behind glass in London, viewed by millions of tourists for the price of a restaurant meal. As the ultimate physical symbol of colonial extraction, does the moral weight of history demand that the Kohinoor finally come home? Let us know what you think in the comments.